Marno, what was you wanted to have a chat about something specific before, and Dave didn't let you.
Oh,
I'm not allowed to yet. I'll wait
no.
for the definition.
Let's do that. I think we've covered the big headlines in the news, so let's move to this.
Cool.
Wins of the week.
It was less wins of the week. It was more just, I feel like as the business is growing and I'm getting busier and busier, I'm getting less time to talk to the lads. So it was more asking, how has the last week been? What have you been focusing on? What have you been developing? I know I've been personally really deep into like personal development, self-awareness, self-mastery. So I'm reading Mastery by Robert Greene, and then also reading The $1 Trillion Coach by, I think it's Bill Campbell. So Eric Schmidt and another bloke wrote it from Google. And that's been setting me on this little trajectory. And then from there, like, again, coming to the purpose of like, what can I do? What can I scale and what can I sustainably do for the long future? That's just going to fulfill me. So if I die next week because we get bombed, I'm going to enjoy and live my true self, authentic self for the next week. And I'd really be getting into that, like studying Dan code religiously and creating a bunch of like infographics and slide decks to test myself on the subject of just self-mastery. I've really found it confronting, and it's been a lot of growth, but it's been a lot of fun. So I'm curious to see how you two doing and how are you spending your week, or the three of you, sorry.
That sounds like a win of the week, mate. I think this is perfectly in line with the
Good.
just to be fair. That's awesome, man. I mean, time to read. That's magical.
It's been a lot, man. It's been a lot. And even like the conversation with Richard that we had, like he introduced me to a few concepts that I guess I knew existed, but he put it into words that made sense. Like I've worked with other coaches, and the way that Richard communicated it at like a 5th grade level, so I could actually understand it and conceptualize it. And that sent me on this little ramp of like, hey, cool, what exactly am I doing?
That makes sense, mate. I always act like a 5th grader most of the time.
So they say to communicate clearly, you should aim for about a 5th grade level, because as soon as you start using big words that are confusing, the cognitive load burns up and people can't handle it. Like
we stopped reading at the 5th grade. No one reads after that.
I did see some chart that was showing, you know, the average number of words in a human sentence, and back in the 1500s and through the Renaissance and stuff, like it was like 30 plus words per sentence, and now we're down to about 5. Like race to the bottom curve.
Driven by clickbait.
We can just communicate effectively. That's my argument.
That's what I'd always say to my English teachers in high school. Like, why do you need 3 pages? I said everything I had to say in a page and a half. I'm just succinct and tidy with my words.
But yeah, so what are your wins? How do you, the three of you, spend your week or prioritize what's important? I've even done my little vision board. Let me show you this. This is my biggest win of the week. I got Gemini to generate one that you can't see, but it was financial goals at the top. Then it's new home goals, because I want to buy a new house at the end of this year or in the next 3 months. Then family and health goals. So stay healthy for the boys, eat healthy, and then have a baby, hopefully, if we're blessed enough. And then life structure. So how do I prioritize my schedule? What's my sales funnel look like? Like, what's the funnel I need to go through? And then my social life. Like, who am I spending time with? Like, only quality people, essentially. So this is definitely the win. Like getting that.
I love your raw openness, because if you can't face your own objectives and vulnerability, you'll never get anywhere. And that's like, what's the problem I'm trying to solve? And you are answering the most important question of what is the problem you are trying to solve for yourself. I love that. I think it's great.
You know, the one that I care about.
You framed it.
Exactly. It's all we should have. And on the back of that, one of my wins this week was the amount of research that I could do across my own data using the LLM as I'm writing my book, which will be out on wide release in about a month's time. And I've had a really good feedback from it, because I actually I've written 53,000 words, I think, and I pinged it to a whole lot of executives, very senior ones, C-levels right across Australia and the world, and some private equity ones, and they came back very positive. And I asked them all for stories to contribute, to give that, you know, that characterization and the construction, something that AI couldn't do, because this is all real stuff. It's people in rooms, who said what words, and all that sort of stuff. And that was my win this week, using AI to get my research and reach out to my partners and my friends and say, give me what you think So hopefully I'll, actually David's published a few books. I'll talk to him about how I get started on that. But that's my win.
Nice.
I'm
That's
keen to
awesome.
hear it. That'd be awesome.
Marno, on your thing with the stuff, I was listening to some content this week from StoryBrand, Donald Miller, who started StoryBrand, and really interesting guy to listen to. Like great storyteller. Like, well, that's his business, right? And just thinking about his methodology. But one of the things that came up in one of the interviews with him was around it's the obituary. So write your obituary that you would want people to read out aloud.
Ooh, I love that.
So like write that
great
now.
approach.
And then that's sort of the North Star. So if you want those things to be true about you when you die, that should affect what your choices are and what your actions are today. So he reads that.
That's a piece of gold, Dave.
So
I'm writing that down right now,
he's got one of those,
that's
and he reads that daily because that sort of reminds him of what's important.
I had that exposed to me a fair while ago. It's really interesting talking about this like personal development stuff because that was a huge part of my life about 6 or 7 years ago, and I kind of just came out the end of it with all of this foundation built, and I've never gone back. I probably should go back and like reassess, but like my win of the week, my like huge thing that I've been working on is very similar, very parallel to the same concept, except for agents.
Yeah.
Legitimately, like I've because of all of the shenanigans with Claude Code and Anthropic, and I was like, look, I'm going to pull myself out of a walled garden and a closed off proprietary piece of stuff, even though it's leaked, and I'm going to rebuild my entire workflow, my entire agent infrastructure with something different. And I chose Pi, and it's been fantastic. And I would say that at this point in time, I've completely replaced every single possible feature that I would use in Claude Code or any other agent harness inside my own. And I'm continuing to build more and more on top of it. So the whole personal development with the agents in mind is this internal feedback loop system that I built inside it, so that as I'm speaking to it and I correct it, it actually flags that and puts it into this pedagogy system where it will self-learn and self-correct as we go and as we learn together.
I love it. Oh, I love that. I really like that.
That's unreal.
It's very funny. Remember when you first got the ability to organize information? Trying to remember back to when you were young and you did that, right? We're doing that today with AI on a completely new perspective and scale. And it's so exciting because you remember when you were young, you just got up in the morning, ate, ran around the street, went to school. You did whatever. You weren't really worried about managing information. You were worried about learning. Now, as we've become more sophisticated, we've got so much happening around it and so many tools. We're now coming up new ways, and it's reflecting back to us, as you're saying, Matt, who are we? What's important to me? Like and where are we going? And there's a great sketch that Jerry Seinfeld does where he talks about a similar thing, but he's talking about the perfect box. And he goes, I need a box for that, and I need a box for that. And where do I find a box to put those things? And he talks about organizing everything. He finishes the sketch with, and of course, in the end, you find the perfect box, and it's your coffin. But it's a great metaphor, right? For us. It's a good sketch. It's a great metaphor for us realizing where our lives are going, what's important, what do we want at the end of it. And I just find AI so exciting for businesses and individuals to create the perfect life they want and have a reflective perspective on it.
Yeah. I like, we've spoken before, Richard, about like inability to focus and stay on track and all that kind of just insane thing that happens with brains or of our types of brain. And my agent systems now, I have all of these different methods of interacting where it actually controls my calendar in full now. And I have a complete sort of task and project management system that it uses for me. And then I've got my knowledge core as well, which is what you're talking about with like, you know, all of this data that you're processing. There's 3 words that I came across just in distilling research, because I actually did do some prep for this episode on Dave's request. And it was to do with how you treat that information. And one of them is compilation. So you were talking about all your book information and trying to pull stuff from there. But when you have a big mess of data that hasn't used any sort of compilation system, you're kind of starting from scratch every single time.